A very good morning to you, and welcome to our Bird Notes. This is Dwight Davis. According to most liturgical calendars, it is Christmastide, that period between Christmas Day and Epiphany. Christmastide runs for 12 days, thus the 12 days of Christmas. And according to the old song, gifts are to be given for each of the dozen days. Now, I can never quite remember the gifts or the order, save for the 5 gold rings, and I think the chord structure helps in remembering that, and the single partridge in the pear tree. Have you noticed that by numerical total, half the gifts mentioned in the song are birds? Let's examine that particular bit of holiday tradition this morning. I'm sure this has been done before, but I haven't noted any specific exploration of the birds in the song. So I'll go out on a limb, so to speak, and offer some observations and conjecture. The 12 Days of Christmas is a traditional English carol, so let's assume that the birds mentioned are found in England. The partridge certainly is. The species in question is most likely the chicken-like bird called simply partridge, scientific name Perdix perdix, which is found throughout the British Isles. There is also a red-legged partridge in England, very similar to the partridge. Whichever of these two birds is being sung about, it will not naturally be found in a tree, pear, or other. Partridges are ground dwellers, and as far as I can tell, an appearance in the song in the tree is just to fill out the musical phrase. The two turtle doves pose no identification problem. Turtle doves are common in Europe and southern England. The word turtle in the name, by the way, has nothing to do with the shelled reptile, but refers to an onomatopoetic rendering of its call, heard by most people, even from Roman times, as tur, thus turtle. The 3 French hens are probably just barnyard chickens. It's the same bird, scientific name Gallus gallus, in England, in France, and around the world. I suspect the descriptor French may be a reference to a method of preparing the bird for a festive feast. Let's skip the 4 calling birds for a moment and jump to the geese a-laying, 6 of them. These are most likely the common domestic goose, descended from one of a half-dozen wild goose species that visit England in the winter. The 7 swans a-swimming are surely the native mute swan, Cygnus olor, the swan of fairy tales, with that graceful arched neck. By the way, the British monarch retains the right to ownership of all unmarked mute swans in open waters in Great Britain. And now back to the 4 calling birds, unless they are 4 collie birds, or 4 canary birds, or collie birds, or even mockingbirds, as one version has it. Let's try to sort this out. The 1780 version of the 12 Days of Christmas mentions 4 collie birds, spelled C-O-L-L-Y. Now, in the 18th century, collie was an English expression for black. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the word as deriving from Middle English and meaning, and we quote here, grimed with or as if with coal dust or soot. By extension, collie birds was a dialect name for blackbirds, according to the Oxford Book of Carols. In industrialized England, soot or coal dust-covered birds would have been common, so collie birds make sense. But just to muddle things, there's a group of strange birds in Africa called collies, spelled C-O-L-I-E-S. They show no close affinity to any other group of birds, exhibiting rather unusual anatomy and behaviors. They're called mouse birds for their habit of scurrying about in the foliage. Some species of this group sleep hanging upside down. Were these birds ever imported to England to be kept as caged birds? Could these be the collie birds of the song? Probably not, but it's something to consider. And then there's this. Charles Schulz has Sally asking Linus about the 4 calling birds in one of the Peanuts comic strips. The answer runs as follows. A calling bird is a kind of partridge. In 1 Samuel, it says, "For the king of Israel has come out to seek my life just as though he were hunting the calling bird." There's a play on words here. David was standing on the mountain calling, and he compared himself to a partridge being hunted. That's the gospel according to Linus. That's very interesting, but it serves only to add to the uncertainty regarding the 4 birds in the 12 days of Christmas. I think the best idea is to just sing the song the way most people sing it nowadays. Just call them calling birds, and then have another glass of eggnog.